Hey everybody, welcome back to a very special episode of Samp&Chance, the Samp&Chance interview edition, if I may. Joined with me as always with my man with the master plan, Mr. Chance, Michaels. Chance, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I can't complain, man. We're hot off the heels of an amazing interview that we just did with Roger Stone last week. And we're going to follow that interview up with an amazing interview in its own mind, man.
Oh yeah.
Guys, we got to sit down with the legendary Kiwi sheep herder, Bushwhacker, Bushwhacker Luke, guys. Yeah, we were supposed to get Butch and Luke on together, but unfortunately, due to weather issues in New Zealand, that's where Butch resides. We were unable to get Butch on. We were also unable to get the author of the book, Blood, Sweat, and Cheers by the Bushwhackers, which is why Luke had come on and why Butch was going to come on. And we were going to be joined by the author, John Crother, as well. But unfortunately, he got a case of the COVID. So he was unable to come on, but we will. I have talked to John and he wants to come on and he wants to come on with Butch. So this story will continue at some point, guys. But what we have here is an hour and 15 minutes of pure gold. Guys, if you're a wrestling fan and girls out there as well, and you're listening to this, you will get a true history of a career that spans over 5 to 7 decades. Guys,
Yeah.
they're remembered most by their time in the WWE, but these guys were bigger than life before they even got to the WWE. We touch on all of that. We talk about so much with these guys. So we want to keep it nice and short here. We just want to, introduce this because there's just so much there. We want you guys to introduce this interview, but let's not forget this, Chance Michaels. Without our friend Vance Nevada, none of this would have happened. So
Absolutely. So thank you to Vance.
yeah,
Really appreciate it.
absolutely. A huge shout out to Vance Nevada to connecting us to John Crother, and a big shout out to John for facilitating and organizing this with us to get this off the ground. So guys, here we have it. Sit back, relax, let us
Strap on your
here.
seatbelt because this is a wild ride. You're gonna love it. You're gonna be smiling and going, "Wow, this is an amazing interview." Enjoy it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so like I was saying, sit back, relax, cozy up, get your favorite drinks and snacks. It's a cold one out there. It's raining outside. If you're in Vancouver, if you're anywhere else in the world, just relax and let us in your ears. Ladies and gentlemen, Samp&Chance present to you Bushwhacker Luke. Enjoy. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to a very special episode of Samp&Chance. I'm your host, Bobby Sampson, and I am joined with Chance Michaels, and joined with us, one half of one of the greatest tag teams in the world, in my opinion, 35-time world champions, known as the Kiwis, known as the Sheepherders, but probably best known as the Bushwhackers. Ladies and gentlemen, with all humility and with all privilege, we present to you, Samp&Chance present to you, Luke from the Bushwackers. Luke, how are
Whoa,
you?
good day, mateys. It's great to be on your show, Samp&Chance. I've been looking forward to this a long time, and I love all you Canadians.
Oh,
Thank
you
you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
I'm excited about the show, guys. It's great. We've got a new book coming out, and I was just turned 76 the other day, and I'm still on the road most weekends around North America, and that's talking about your country too.
There you go. Fantastic. First and foremost, very happy belated birthday. I hope it was a good birthday for you. And yes, we are here in part to talk about this great book that you guys have released recently. It's amazing. Blood, Sweat, and Cheers, the Bushwhacker story. I tell you what, Luke, this book blew me away. I read it from cover to cover. Amazing. A wealth of information. I don't think a lot of fans of this generation or a couple generations ago even realized that what you guys brought to the sport and what you guys brought to the industry on a whole. Thank you for everything that you guys have done. I know that you're going on almost what now, 7 decades of being in the ring.
Yeah, 7 decades, mate. And just before we go on, I'm just going to explain to the people: blood, sweat, and cheers. The blood and the sweat is when we were the Kiwis and the sheep herders, and the cheers are when we went to WWF, and everybody was cheering us. It's
Fantastic.
funny how, you know, a lot of people said to me, "How can you turn from being one of the bloodiest and vicious teams, tag teams in the business?" And I said, "That's easy, money." Yeah, that's funny. Once you go, we were wrestlers in the NWA. Once we went to WWE, WWF, we become celebrities.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's start at the beginning, Luke. I mean, you first wrestled in 1962, I believe you were saying earlier to us. That's where you started your career. New Zealand is not known for wrestling at that time, or in general. How did wrestling come into that scene?
Well, you got a little mistake there, mate. Pat
Okay.
Patterson was Pat O'Connor was the world champion, and he
Okay.
came from New Zealand.
Right, right.
And he and him and what was it, Nature Boy? What's his name now?
Buddy,
Not Buddy.
Buddy Rogers.
Buddy Rogers.
Buddy
Yeah.
Rogers. They drew to the biggest house, 62,000. They drew in Chicago way back in the 62. They drew 40-something thousand in 1962 to a wrestling match in Chicago.
Oh,
so
wow.
Pat O'Connor was a big name from New Zealand, and
Okay.
but the guys in New Zealand didn't even know he existed. You had to come over to the States to realize that Pat was from New Zealand. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He was a big name in the business.
absolutely.
And but when I started, we didn't have any TV. We didn't have TV to 68 in New Zealand. The only way to promote wrestling was posters in the town. And this is crazy, but we used to arrive in the town before midday. And at lunchtime, when everyone got off for lunch for that hour, we'd walk the streets to let the people know the wrestlers were in town.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I read that. That was really
Luke,
cool.
what made you fall in love with wrestling when you were a kid? What drew you into pro wrestling? For the people
No
that
one
don't know.
knows. I didn't fall in love. I never even knew pro wrestling existed. My mate next door was a bodybuilder. Went into Mr. New Zealand. I think he got Brian Ashby. Well, he wrestled as Bruno Becker. He come over he worked in Puerto Rico and a lot in Japan. Anyhow, he was in a body contest and he became second in it. And the judge of 1950, Mr. New Zealand, Al Hodman, said to him, "Hey, do you want to make some money with that body?" And he said, "How?" And Al Hodman said, "Come into Coolman's gym." Coolman's gym was well known in the 50s, 60s, and 50s and 60s, and maybe part of the 70s, where all the Commonwealth boxers and amateur wrestlers came in. You guys know what the Commonwealth Games is.
Yeah,
Yes.
we get them here as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you call them the Empire Games of the Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, well, this gym had all of them, the guys that came down to Australia and New Zealand, Coolman's gym. So he goes into Coolman's gym and he's there for about 4 months, and he says to me, they're training him to wrestle. That's the first time I heard about wrestling. And because there's no TV, nothing like that, no wrestling magazines. And so I go in. This gym was like the gym in the first Rocky movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 boxing rings, say 8 inches off the floor to a foot off the floor. The floor of the ring was as hard as the floor you're standing on. 4 ropes, 20 feet apart. The commission made sure they were 20 feet apart, and the commission were the police. How about that?
No, that's insane. So this is one question I have for you, Luke. Apparently the police were not smart to what was going on. Why was that the case? Like, I know they come in and measure the ropes to make sure everything was precise and whatnot, but what took so long for the authorities and other people to get smart to it?
I don't know. When I was there in New Zealand, the police weren't smart to it. They would be sitting ringside by the announcer table, and if anything happened, and that they would get up to make sure the referee disqualified you, and if you try to keep going, the play get in the ring.
Crazy. And
Now you
but
couldn't, Samp, you
yes,
couldn't punch or kick.
right. It was strictly kind of European style, kind of grappling, right?
But these
Forearms.
forearms
Yeah.
and the uppercuts,
Yeah.
and you could do a knee drop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A leg drop. No kicking. So
Oh,
that
wow.
was
What about a
that was
headbutt?
awkward.
Can you do a headbutt?
Yes, you could headbutt, Chaz. You could headbutt. And that, but it was crazy. The thing, you know, in England, when you threw a guy down, if you didn't keep hold of them, you know, you couldn't touch him. You know what I mean? You had to wait for him to get up. Anyhow, New Zealand wasn't like that, but we
Yeah.
worked British style. We had
Yeah.
rounds, 8-minute rounds for the heavyweights, 8 6-minute rounds, or 8 5-minute rounds for the semi-final matches and the other matches on the card. And if you didn't do at least 6 rounds, the people would be pissed off, and you wouldn't see them. You know, the next
Yeah.
time that the attendance would be right down.
Now, do
So
you find?
the main event had to do 48 minutes at least.
Oh, wow. Now, do you find that being constricted in terms of your moves and what you could accomplish and then
Yes.
kind of do that when you did finally come to this side of the world, it was easier to grasp, or was it harder to pick up on the North American style, which is very different, obviously, from where you guys came from?
No, I'll tell you how I picked up on that. Anyhow, just go back to this. You know,
Okay.
you had rounds, so you'd
Yeah.
be in the middle of the heat, or start the heat, and the bell would go. You have to stop. But then it's a tag team. Well, you should take the ref, and the other guy would sneak around and get on them. You know what I mean? Take the
Yeah.
ref, and the other guy would sneak around, and the police would stand up, and you stop and come back. Crazy, isn't it? Anyhow, 1965, the Vietnam War was going on.
Mhm.
And all of the people from the Vietnam War were coming down to Sydney, Australia for R&R.
Mhm.
At the same time, Jim Barnett, who owned WCW, came down and bought the roller derby out. The 10 a.m. Saturday morning. They were there and they were getting a big audience. And he looked at the audience and that, and he said, "Well, that's professional. You know, the roller derby as a work too, like wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially there was Americans in it." And he bought the roller derby out and started WCW. And of course, Killer Kowalski was the heel he had there for the start, and he was building baby faces. But at the time, there was Spiros Arion and Murray Milano. Spiros Arion was the big Greek who worked for Vince McMahon, and Murray Milano worked around the States too. He was an Italian, and they were residents in Sydney and Melbourne, and those two cities were full of Greeks and Italians.
Mhm.
Anyhow, we used to go over and work for Jim Barnett. And the first time Butch went over there, we never kicked or punched. But we'd go out and see the match. There's no, we were doing British style, you know, ring mat work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, take him down, grab a leg, the leg flat, roll over, and get a headlock and all the mat work stuff. Then we realized that all that stuff, we didn't have to do that anymore. We saw what they did in American style. Kick and punch, take the guy down, put a neck lock on him and hold him and make him fight up, cut him off again illegally and bring him back down, and then finally let him come up, explode, and go home.
That's awesome.
And we thought, boy, that was much easier style. No rounds, no rounds or anything.
Oh,
and
wow.
that we'd go over and do jobs for all the Americans, you know, 4-minute jobs and that. Jim Barnett would pay us 4 times. We were making $40 a week over, you know, $50. No, we weren't wrestling full time. Wrestling full time didn't start till 66. So when I went over to there, I was making about $3 an hour. I'm an engineer by trade, turner and fitter. Anyhow, I was over there. I was making $250 a week, from 40 a week to $250 a week.
Wow.
Yeah, working every night and doing 4 minutes a night.
That's fantastic. That's
But I learned
fantastic.
how to work American style. He changed
Fantastic.
my name from Gorgeous Teddy Williams to Sweet William.
Nice. Yes.
So, and he wanted me to do, and I was doing the Gorgeous George gimmick. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So that's how
Um,
I started. That's how I learned the American style.
oh, okay, okay, fantastic. You also worked with Andre before he ever went to the WWE. So you worked with a young Andre. What was that like?
Oh, that was great, mate. Great. I'd show you a photo, but I'm using my phone instead of my. I should have used my laptop for this, but I'm using my phone, and
That's
I
okay.
would have showed you photos of Andre in 1969.
Oh, wow.
7'4", 350 pounds. He could drop kick.
Wow. Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
have any
yeah.
stories about hanging out with them, Luke? Any party
Yeah, we
stories or hanging out with them you could share?
yeah we worked 3 months with him, or 2 months, all around the country. In the big towns, we worked with Steve Rickard and Andre. That's the promoter. But in the smaller, in the smaller towns, we worked handicap matches with them. And if I told you what we did, you'd laugh. But at that time, the people exploded what we did. Simple things. We'd both kick him in the stomach. I'd kick him in the stomach, get a top wrist lock. And then Butch would come in and kick him in the stomach because he'd be trying to lift me up. And Butch would come in and kick him in the stomach and get a wrist lock on the other side. He'd stand up with us both hanging off him and swing that way, swing that way, swing that way, then pull us apart, and then bang, pull us together with double knockout, roll to the mat, and roll out. The people exploded.
I
Fantastic.
bet.
Was
Crazy little stuff, but that's what we did. And, the people loved it. We worked with Andre and that, and then he came over to North America in 71 to Grand Prix, when I was talking to you before,
yeah.
for Grand Prix, because that's a French, in Montreal's a French territory.
Mhm.
And then when he came in, they're only running one town a night. We came into the same territory 9 months later, they were running 3 towns a night.
Oh, wow. Wow. What was Grand Prix like for you guys? I mean, that was your introduction to North America and everything, but uh was it challenging, or did you guys just find it clicked?
No, the Vachons brought us in.
Yeah,
Steve Rickard, the New Zealand promoter, told them all about us. We'd
right.
worked in Singapore, we'd worked in Bangkok, worked everywhere. We worked with English wrestlers in Singapore and European wrestlers. We've been up in, all around it was Malaya and Asia. We
Yeah.
worked in Penang, Kuala Lumpur, all those places. And so when we come over, the Vachons brought us in, and they owned the territory with Edward Capotier, the flying Frenchman.
Mhm.
And the main guy was Killer Kowalski, who we
Yes.
knew from Australia. And of course, the main babyface was Andre.
Yes.
And so we were they took good care of us straight away. We were working with the top tag teams. The top tag teams there was Gino Brito and Dino Bravo,
Yes.
and Billy White, no, Billy Two Rivers,
Mhm.
and another Indian. That was another tag team, and the Vachons. They
Yeah.
were the three main tag teams, and all our stay for a year and a half. That's mainly who we worked against. The Vachons, against those two. We were actually working in another town that always have a single match main event and then have a tag team. And we were in the tag team on one of the other towns every night.
Fantastic. One
We
story.
worked with Andre. We worked a lot with Andre and Edward Capotier. And that
Awesome,
was
awesome.
there.
Luke, could you share the story about when you guys were on the road and you guys stopped to get gas and Andre tipped the car?
Oh yeah. So now we left Montreal and we went right up north where they only go about twice a winter,
Right.
twice a year, up into right up the top of Canada.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's about 8 hours out from Montreal. We'd finished the loop with the Italian from Pittsburgh,
Oh, Bruno
Dominic
Sammartino.
Tanucci,
Oh, Dominic Danucci. Okay.
and Andre.
All
And
right,
we
right.
finished that move, and Andre's got his manager with him, Frank Bauer, who's about 270, 6'2".
Oh, wow.
We're in their car. Okay, fine. We're back in their car driving back to Montreal. They pick up 72 beers, right? They drink those bastards in 2.5 hours. 72 bloody beers. Andre, 2 gulps to 2.5 gulps is a can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get out, we stop at this truck stop, and it's in summertime, or yeah, it's in spring break, or it's summertime when the kids are on the road,
Yeah.
university students. And we get out at the stop and Butch and me get out, and we got blonde hair and black beards. We must have looked, and these college students got out, and they're yelling out to Andre and the other guy Frank stayed in the car, and the college kids yelling at us to pet, that's faggots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're drunk and all that stuff. Faggots. So we went in a big truck stop, and we went over. You got all the truck accessories, and you got the gas and all that on one side, and then you got a bar, a food where you sit down and tables and all that. We go around there to get a sandwich or something or other. These kids come in to get beer too. So Andre gets out of that car. He's heard all of them and saw them all giving a shit. Him and Frank get out, and they go over to that Volkswagen, and they tip that bastard on its side. We come out. These kids didn't come out yet. I think they went, we got a sandwich, and they got the booze. We come back, and they got in the car, and we left. I think it was about 3 miles down the road, we got pulled over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the cops pulled us over, and and Andre's driving, I think, or Frank, and they look good, and then something or other, and they realize that Andre gets out of the car, and all they want to do is take photos with him. He was their biggest star. They'd never seen a giant of that size way up the top of Canada. You don't see a guy of Andre's size anywhere, but way up there. And all they wanted to do, they got a camera from the car, which I guess they have for taking photos of accidents and scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they got it, and they both had to get photos taken with Andre.
That's awesome. I love that.
And we're
story.
on the road. We got back on the road, and bye.
Yeah, I know that was one of the fun stories that I really enjoyed from the book. Enter Stampede Wrestling, if I may. Your very first day there, you guys were working your match, and this individual by the name of Abdullah the Butcher throws in a couple guys that he's beating up outside the ring. Can you shed some light on that story? And who were those young lads?
Hey, we're still in Grand Prix, mate. Does it matter if I swear a bit?
Yeah, swear all you want.
Okay. Hey, I'll give you the Winston Churchill.
Perfect.
That's the same as the bird.
Fair enough.
That's British. Anyhow, they said, he put us in the office. One of the Sean's and Ed would one day, they says, hey, for a year and a half, you've been on top, or you were used so well, we'd like to keep using you, but we have to get used to start putting over people to come up. Heels have to move on. They keep the baby faces in territories, because I book territories. You have strong baby face, you feed the heels, heels.
Yeah. And
they said, but we'd like you to come back, shortly, and we can book you in Stampede. We've never heard of Stu Hart. We've never heard of Stampede. But this was a notorious territory for wrestling. Everyone from the 50s had been through Stu Hart and started up and gone there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They've trained at the school there, and they worked in that territory. So the first night we go there, and before I go on, there's 2 arenas in the grounds. These are the fairgrounds. Right. There's the pavilion and the corral. Yeah. The corral now is not the corral. It's a big place. What's it called now?
It's the Stampede grounds. I don't know if the corral's there anymore. I was just
recently... the the crowd's not there anymore. It's a big place now.
Yeah, the stadium, the hockey stadium's there.
Yeah.
Saddle
Anyhow,
Dome.
The Saddle Dome.
Saddle Dome, right.
Right.
I had a brain fart.
But the pavilion is still there. They're still running
Yeah,
shows
the
out of the
pavilion,
pavilion.
yeah. So we arrived there. Archie Goldie's the booker. He said, tonight you're working with the champion, second to last match. Abdullah's on last. He says, we haven't seen Abdullah yet. Anyhow, they said, get ready and that, and we'll do a pro, whatever. And he says, I'm just going to get you guys DQ'd. And Butch says, well, we use the chain or the flagpole. I can't remember. Because we always had a New Zealand flag, you know. And so we get DQ'd at the end of the match. We've got them both laying down, the two champions, heavyweight champions, bleeding. And next minute, kids that get thrown in the ring between 10 and 13. And two kids are bleeding. And all we hear from the outside is, beat him up, champ, beat him up, champ. Beat him up, champ. Beat him up, champ. That's Abby's voice. And we put the boot to them. Now there's 6 people laying in the ring, 4 are bleeding and 2 are not bleeding, but they're all laying down selling. And I don't know whether the referees came in or what, but we left the ring and we're walking back down the hallway, and there's this thick, stout guy, 5'11", 5'10", thick wide shoulders, but thicker in the hips. And that he's standing there and he says, what are you fucking doing? They're my 4 kids out there.
And who were they? Which were there?
2 are bleeding. What the fuck are you doing? And then we realized who it was, because we told me when the dressing room that night, you say we asked, where's the promoter? And they said, you'll know when he comes, when you hear his voice and all that sort of stuff. And it's thick and stout. So that was so we picked it up straight away. Now I can't tell you, I can't remember who they were, but Brett was the the 2 older ones. We worked with against them, and that was
Smith?
we worked against Smith a lot, but not too many. I mean, Bruce and the fireman. The fireman.
Right. Okay. I'm trying to remember his name as well, but I know who you're talking about. He had the mustache.
Yes.
Yes. I can't remember his name right now either.
He was the 3rd to oldest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dean was around then too. But Dean was small.
Yeah.
But he used to run some of the shows.
Awesome.
And anyhow, it was Bruce and the fireman, and that now and again Smith would work. The Smith was a fuck up, as you know. God bless you, Smith. I love you. He's upstairs now.
Yes.
But he'd do anything. He just do stuff out of the, you know, you're doing something, you're working something, and he'd do something way wild, not in the way of the match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the other 2 we work with and that, and around the territory. Now we came back to that territory. I'm jumping way ahead. Now we come back to that territory in '79. We're in Hawaii, and we're booked for Don Owens, who've got a Japan tour. So we got 6 weeks in between, and we called up Stu, and Stu said, yeah, can you take us? He said, yeah, come in straight away. So we came in straight away, and he teamed us up with Tommy.
Okay.
The Dynamite Kid.
Yes.
That's cool.
Davey Boy wasn't there yet. Davey Boy didn't come till a year later. Tommy was about 175 then, but he was all muscled up. And that's the second time we went in there.
Luke, you've wrestled all over the world. What are some of your favorite countries you've worked in, and some of your favorite promotions that you've wrestled for?
All I can say is my favorite place is when the arenas were full. Because I got bigger payoffs. And then, you know, some of the country, I lived in South Africa for 3 months, and that was nice. And I went to the Kruger Park, a wildlife park, 180 miles wide, 180 miles long, about 60 miles wide. And to see the animals in their natural way is different than seeing them in the zoo. The colors are more vibrant. It's another world. There's big gates you go through and there's a camp in the middle, where you stay in for the night, and with big fences around it, and then you go through, and I could tell you a story about what happened while we were there, but I'll go in. But that was one of the highlights of my life.
Awesome.
I saw one of the stories was we got woken up 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and they said, a water buffalo has been killed about 5 or 6 miles away from you, and that is down on a bridge. You can look down and you can see the water buffalo. The female lion kills the water buffalo, and it dragged it out of the water and up on the bank. So we all get excited and drive, and we're on the bridge looking down there. She's behind the tree. We can see her head. She's sticking her head out, but she's behind there watching the thing. Now, we heard the story. She kills the animal and then waits for the male to come. I don't know how they tell him. And the male brings the kids, and they all feed on the water buffalo, and she feeds on it last.
That's usually the case.
Yeah, that's usually the case. But just to see the killing side and see a real thing, it was about 30 yards away, less than that.
Fantastic.
Because we're on the bridge, we're on 25 yards, we're on a bridge looking down to the bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Luke, would you be kind enough to touch on your guys' time in the Pacific Northwest working with Rick Martel and Roddy Piper, and perhaps tell us about the apartment that almost burnt down?
The what?
The apartment when Butch was cooking the venison and you guys went out for dinner and realized that he had left the meat on the stove at the Bomber Hotel.
Yeah, venison, yeah, that was crazy. We were going out to get changed. We were living in these little shacks. When we landed there, they said all the boys stay at the Bomber.
Yeah.
Did you read about this in the book?
I did, yes, sir.
Yeah, now I'm going to tell the folks. The Bomber was the motels, there was a gas station in the front. The guy in the Second World War had bought the B-52 bomber that he had flown. Can you believe this?
That's insane.
Bought it after the war and bought it to Portland, Oregon, and he set it above the petrol pumps. He had 16 pumps underneath it.
Oh wow!
Roads and the whole bomber, wide wings. The bomber had big, thick body. It was a slow plane, but it carried all the bombs. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was and it had and behind it there was a sort of a grass in the middle, and there was all these cabins built around it. So we go there and we get a cabin each. This is when we arrive there. They tell us to go Milwaukee Avenue Boulevard, and you go to the Bomber. We said the Bomber, and they said, "Hey, you won't miss it." We're driving along this thing. We see this airplane, not thinking that's it. And then we got there, and it dawned on us, B-52 plane, and it had B-52 on the side of the plane. And that was it. We got our cabins, and anyhow, we've been there for about 4 months, and that was just a place to hang out in. So no cake, nothing the best. And we decided to get an apartment, a nice apartment. And that day we went out and we're in Portland, and we go over in Portland City. It's right on the border of Washington State.
Yeah, Vancouver, Washington. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not Vancouver. Vancouver's Canada.
No, Vancouver, Washington is the town that borders Portland.
Yeah. So we're over there, and then we get an apartment there. But Butch remembers there's something burning and cooking on a stove.
Yes.
He just remembers, and he calls somebody up, and they go and turn it off. So when we get back there, the place is black. The smell of burnt the stove, the water, and the smell of burnt meat the whole place was stinking, and it was all smoke. And that they had the doors open. They couldn't have the doors open because he had all his personal stuff in there. They'd opened the windows. I can't remember how bad it was inside, but it was just a smog, and everything was burnt.
And his family was coming around that time as well to move down with him there, right? That was the whole. His family was coming down. Butch's family was
so that's
coming
why we
down.
moved, and we got apartments. Funny part is, we got apartment on either side of Buddy Rose.
Nice, yes.
In Portland, and
Very
you could
cool.
hear Buddy through the wall.
Oh man.
You read stories in the book what we heard through the wall, right?
Yes, we did.
I mean, the people, I'm not going to tell the people because you got to buy the book to hear those stories.
Absolutely. You need to buy the book. Everyone, this is an amazing book. I can't.
And the road stories we told, and the road stories about Portland, I was just on Vice TV, and they had territories.
Yeah.
And I did Portland. I did Portland with another guy who was there for about he still lived there. He's from Houston. Mm-hmm. He had a mask on. I forget his name. He came in after I left. We left. Anyhow, the Round Table Territories on Vice Television. You can watch that if you go. It's on YouTube. Watch Territories. Watch Portland. You'll hear the stories about Don Owens was the promoter. His brother was the sub promoter, and his brother was an alcoholic.
Oh,
Owens. You've got to read the stories. I tell you the stories now, you won't buy the book. But these stories are unbelievable.
They are unbelievable. I have read the stories.
This is promoter who shot himself in the balls.
Yeah, it's all in the book.
That's just a teaser. He was drunk, went out, and the money from the show, and he had a gun in his pocket, and he was so drunk he put his hand in the pocket, and he must have hit the trigger. The bullet went through his balls.
Oh,
it's testicles for you ladies.
Luke, who were some of your favorite opponents that you worked with? Some of your
we worked. I'm just going to say, you brought up Roddy and Rick Martel. We worked 14 months straight with them. Mm-hmm. Roddy, before he died, told me we did 22 consecutive sellouts in Portland, Oregon. That's where they did the TV. Wow. Don Owens owned the building. He had a great setup there. He had all the bleachers on wheels, and all the advanced bookings were chairs on the floor. So more advanced bookings he put on the floor, and the bleachers would be moved back. It's a very smart idea.
Yeah.
Very smart. So the room always looked jam-packed.
Awesome.
Anyhow, we had 22. We worked with them. We'd go into six-mans, and Buddy Rose was in our army. We had the British Empire, the British Army, or New Zealand Army, whatever you want to call it. We called it at the time. And Buddy Rose carried our flag. Buddy Rose was a very smart man. He was 245 pounds then. When he was in WWF, he was about 250, 260. But when he come back to WWE, he was 350 pounds.
Yeah.
But he lasted in Portland territory for 10 years on top. And that's how smart he was. And he grabbed our flag and wanted to be in our army because it gave him more heat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Denying, telling people he was holding it, he was proud to hold the New Zealand flag and all that.
Fantastic.
So we worked six-mans. They brought in Andre. They brought in Jesse Ventura. They brought in a lot of different people, and we had Buddy in our six-mans. So, and here's another great team we worked with. We didn't get a long run with them. It was Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood.
Oh wow,
that was good. That was really good run. There was an NWA in Charlotte, and then Rocky Johnson and George Wells. That was another great run. You know, Rocky Johnson, The Rock's father,
Yeah.
George Wells, they're a great team. And then other teams, small guys with big hearts, the Fantastics.
Yeah, yeah.
We had a 3 or maybe 5 or 6 months run with them. South North America, South USA.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All over and the fabulous ones, another run. Texas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida.
Yeah.
And Puerto Rico, the fabulous one. Another tag team was the Rock and Roll Express. That was in NWA. We were working the Carolinas, the Virginia, North Virginia, West Virginia. We were working Georgia, and then we will get to Rock and Roll Express. That was another great team.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's fast forward a little bit here. You guys are in Mid-Atlantic now. You're the UWF Tag Team Champions. You get a phone call while you guys are working out, and it's one from Mr. Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and that was your entrance into the WWE or WWF.
That was actually that was actually from Pat Patterson.
Oh, Pat Patterson. Okay.
Butch stated, I never worked my drum. Drum is your core.
Right.
Butch always worked his core.
Right.
The drum. Drum. His waistline was always never over 34 for a 240-pound man.
Pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
230 now. He trimmed down to 230, 225. He trimmed down when he went to WWF. Yeah, so I went outside to pick up my phone calls from my house. We didn't know, these days there's no cell phones.
Right.
We're 3 years out of, or 2.5 years from cell phones.
Yes.
The big box with the cord.
Yeah. Like one of the army phones.
So I go outside to the telephone box and I call my home and I pick up messages. And it says, Pat Patterson here, Pat here, please call me. No Patterson, Pat here, please call me.
Okay.
Who the fuck is Pat? So I write down the number and I give them a call. Excuse me a second.
For everybody watching, that is water, just so everybody knows.
Now for the rest of the story.
Yes.
That was a commentator. There was always a break, and then he said, "Come back." Well, now for the rest of the story.
Yeah, he's a Canadian guy. He used to do those radio hits. We would listen to him on the weekends. What's his name? Paul something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well known.
Yeah.
And the broadcasting.
Absolutely. And it would broadcast across the country and goes, and that's the rest of the story. And it would be like some historical event or something, but
he'd always go and say something when the commercial break came.
Yeah, and that's the rest of the story. Yep, that's
it. And then he'd come back, and now for the rest of the story. Anyhow, so I ring him, and it's Pat there. Yeah, g'day. And he says, Pat says to me, I didn't even know it's Pat Patterson. G'day, it's Pat here, blah, 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 blah. I got a guy who wants to talk to you. And he's got me on speakerphone. And I hear a voice, G'day, Kiwi. G'day, Kiwi. Vince McMahon here. And I've been trying to get into this territory when Vince Sr. owned it. I had been sending not VHS, the big thick ones were before VHS.
Oh, the reel-to-reel, the beta?
The beta. Yeah. I was sending that bloody stuff, the television stuff.
Yeah.
Up to Vince from 82, 81.
Mm-hmm.
But they never had any smaller guys there. They were all giants there at the time. Mm-hmm. So they'd seen us working at NWA, I guess. And I said, I'd like to have you guys work for us. Fuck it. And this is what I've been waiting for years and years. I was excited.
Yeah.
And he said, where can I see you? And I said, I just blurted out, we're free on Wednesday. We weren't.
Right.
Yeah, free Wednesday. And I forgot to tell you, so the first time I was in NWA, I handed, this was in 80 or 81 or 80, I handed Jim Crockett the notice. I didn't know you never handed him the notice. He said to you, I'm going to finish you up in about a month or 2 months or Christmas, and then I'll bring you back in 2 years' time. You never gave him, he gave you the notice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but I gave him 2 months' notice, but I heard he was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now Dusty wanted to get us back in there in '84 because he'd been with him and Blackjack Mulligan were doing the Black Power movement around the country. Remember when Dusty had the black glove on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I brought him into. I was the booker for Joe Blanchard, and I brought him and the other guy in for a week to work against me and Butch. And he said, when I get back to Carolinas, I want to bring you guys in. You know what I mean? And then I called him up after. He says, Jim Crockett don't want you. And now I'm working for Jim Crockett again because he bought out Bill Watts, and we were the champions. So anyhow. So now I'm leaving the second time. So I called them up when I go in to tell Butch, and he's excited too, really excited. So I tell him, I call the office and say, sorry, but we have to go and get Wednesday. We have to fly into the Caribbean and get our visas renewed because we're British subjects.
Right.
And you have to go to Canada, or you have to go the closest was in the Caribbean,
right,
to one of the British colonies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was my excuse. So we flew up there, and
first class,
and a limousine met us at the airport, took us straight up, all first class, took us up to Vince's office, and we're sitting outside of Vince's office. Next minute, they said, a girl comes along and says, you can go in now. There's Vince sitting by the desk. Gets up, we shake hands and that. And he says to us, I'd like to bring you in as baby faces. Now, of course, me being a booker for about 8 years before that, in different territory, I say, why don't you bring us in and turn us? That's when I first realized you don't tell Caesar what to do.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
He said, Butch jumped up on his desk.
Yeah.
And he got his face about that far away from Vince's face. If you can make these faces baby face, you go ahead. And Vince says, hey, and I made a face too, like with Butch, because Butch was making a face. You make these faces, go ahead. And Vince says, look at the mugs on my top baby faces. Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. One eye's looking that way, the other eye's looking this way. He said, they haven't got the smartest bushes in the business. And that was it. So we went home, he said, I'll bring you up for vignettes and that. We went home, and Butch got home, and 2 days later, there was a package. Butch called me up, he said, there's a package on my door. I wasn't at home. And he says, the package here, they've sent it to the wrong people. This is for the Bushwackers. And I said to Butch, hey, Butch never did book work. He was never in the office or anything like that. I said, Vince wants to own us. They're changing our name so he doesn't have to pay more royalties when he merchandises us. I saw that straight away. So, we actually said to the office, hey, we can't call the office, says we're leaving in 2 weeks or a week. And that was it. They were hot on that. But Vince paid us. He says, I'm going to pay you now. So I put you on a payroll straight away.
Nice.
He paid us straight away, put us on the payroll straight away for a month while we flew up every week to do vignettes. And each time we flew up, each week we flew up, we did about 4 or 5 vignettes. And these were comical. We were lucky. At that time, Crocodile D #2 was in the movies. and that was the guy from down under with
Yeah.
all the sayings, and you know how those movies were.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Everybody was grabbing the sayings from the movies,
Yeah.
because the slang sayings, and
Yeah.
of course we jumped on board straight away.
That's awesome. Your time in the WWE, you guys both kind of came in there, I guess, in your late 30s, early 40s. At this point, you guys had
And we were in the 40s.
Yeah, you guys had. Do you find that because Vince brought you in as baby faces that it added time to your careers? Because before that, your careers were savage, man. Like you guys were perhaps one of the most brutal tag teams out there on the scene. And all of a sudden to do this complete transition to baby face and fan friendly and kid friendly, was that a hard transition or did you guys embrace it?
Keep talking.
I'll keep talking. So it was really interesting to see that. Like, I mean, as a kid myself at that time, I was a little kid watching you guys come in. Because, like you said, we didn't have internet at that time. We didn't have the resources to go back into time to see what you guys have had accomplished. As yourselves, as a tag team, as the Kiwis, as the Sheepherders, was it hard to transition to such a hard babyface role? Almost a comedic role, some would argue.
To come to territories, we had the main one was in Portland at the Mount St. Helena blew and all that ash was flying around, and everyone was wearing masks and that. And we did an angle in an arena, and the guy outside had been in the territory before, but he was in a mask, and that came in, and Colonel Blair's. Not Colonel Bears, Ed Wiskowski, Colonel, he was an AWA Colonel, somebody from South Africa. He came in and Buddy Rose turned on us. So we were baby faces for about a month against Ed Wiskowski and Buddy Rose.
Yeah.
And so we that was our first real time to work main event in arenas as baby faces.
Right.
And this was a different baby face.
Yes.
Vince said to us, he wanted us between Moondogs and the Sheepherders, but as baby faces. And I've always said, when heels turn baby faces, they don't stop working. They don't stop working the way they were working. The people want to see them do what they did when they were heels. Kick the shit out of the heels, you know what I mean? When they turn baby faces.
Yeah.
But we realized too, they changed our name and everything, and the Sheepherders have been on Turner's TV off and on for 10 years. You know what I mean? From 79 to 88, we'd be on Turner TV.
Right.
Off and on. You know, sometimes on for a year. They would have breaks because we're in other territories and back in. So we hadn't been on that team. So we said they've been seen a lot, and the Moondogs are on USA Network, and they've seen a lot. Butch says, let's do something completely different. And we always, when we were outside the ring, we always went, whoa, to the people as heels. I swung up our arm, yay, yeah. And he said, this is Butch's idea, let's swing our arms, march.
Iconic.
And I said to him straight away, I said, my shoulders are fucked. And you know what he says to me? He came right up close to me. Do you want to make money? Of course I do. All of a sudden, my arms are swinging up. and that's what as Jesse Ventura used to say, here comes the marching morons.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know. Vivid memories of that time. I mean, it was just so much fun watching you guys work.
Ted, the funny part is the people caught onto that straight away. Within 2 weeks, the arenas, because they seen us on TV doing it, the arenas, everyone, as soon as the music went on and we started coming out, they'd all be standing up doing this.
Luke, who started the licking of the faces? That's one of you guys are very famous for. Licking the fans' face, each other's face, your opponent's face. How did that start?
The faces.
No, the licking of the faces when you would lick like the
that was
fans.
Butch.
That was
That
Butch's
was
thing,
Butch.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Because he used to grab me in the ring at that time when we did it, and we used to march, and we do the whoa to the people that go nose to nose.
Yeah.
His nose against my nose. And then one day he held my head there and gave it a good lick, and he started licking. And what the funny part is, all of a sudden, we were marching out to the ring, and everyone would be putting their heads out.
Wanting a lick.
And wanting a lick.
Yeah.
Now, my hand went on their head, and I licked the back of my hand.
Yes, yes.
Now, I don't think Butch did that.
No, I read that in the book as well, that you used that technique. After a little while, you realized that it's probably safer just to lick your own hand.
I licked the back of my hand, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how that started. And that's what held the people. People remember. They don't remember wrestling. They remember the characters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We talk about that a lot on our show here. We talk about psychology and we talk about characters a lot in terms of moves are great. And I love a good move fest once in a while. But at the end of the day, the best matches are remembered for the characters and the stories that are told. That being said, Luke, since you're still involved in the product today, what are your thoughts on the current product and the direction of professional wrestling as a whole?
You're trying to, mate. You're talking about our character. Now you go to the next subject. I just want to slide something in right under your chin before
right,
we
go ahead.
into that subject. Is that okay for you?
Absolutely.
Mate?
Absolutely.
Is that okay, mate?
That's 100%, mate. Let's do it.
Okay. Now I've had a brain fart.
We were talking about WWF or licking of the hands, and your run in the WWF at the time.
Yeah, no, I've had a brain fart. Too many chair shots.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's go with your subject. He'll come back.
All right. So like I was saying, you're currently involved in today's product. Actually, you know what?
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Let's come back.
Okay. Let's do it.
Then at the end of this month is the pay-per-view, the Royal Rumble.
Yes.
Now, Teddy Long wrote up on Sports Keeper. You know that? Sports, Keepa?
Yeah.
The website, the Bushwhacker Luke for the 2023 Rumble.
Yes,
he says people who always remember him walking out, getting up on the apron, earthquake grabbing him, the 4 seconds in the ring, throwing him out and keep him marching back.
Yeah.
So they made a petition and they put online and got everyone to sign a petition. There's thousands are on the petition. And for me to get in the 2023, because 23, and that's come up on my Facebook a lot and Instagram. Me going into the 2023 Royal Rumble. That's what I went to say here.
We will sign that.
I've already signed it.
I'll sign it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll send you the link. We'll put the link in the podcast notes
Luke,
here as well.
Speaking of injuries, how many injuries have you sustained over your career? Let some of the fans know how dangerous wrestling can be.
Yeah, I've had a lot of, things. I say I've been seeing stars. I've seen stars quite a bit. One time, and a good friend of mine too, he's dead now, from the South. He always worked with Armstrong after the Armstrong's son.
Bullet Bob?
He got cancer. And died about a year ago.
Bob Armstrong?
Bob? Not the Armstrong. He worked with the son of Armstrong as his partner. What was the oldest son?
Not sure.
Right, Road Dogg's brother, the other one.
No, not Road Dogg.
The other brother. Yeah, the other brother. I can't remember his name, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, and the guy with the cancer too.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he kicked me in the sternum one night in the ring. He kicked me in the stomach and hit that part of the sternum. I went down and I went out for a second.
Wow.
I saw stars and just went black. That's the only time I've seen black that I've seen stars a lot of times, but I never went black for about Butcher screaming out, screaming out to me, get up, tag me. And I come to, and I hear him screaming out, and I'm all dizzy to hell. Funny, it wasn't even my head; it was my sternum.
That must have been one hard kick.
Yeah, it was one hard kick. Now I've had 2 knee replacements. I got 14 years out of my first one. I got the first one in 202, and the second one in 218. I got loose, and I got a new one. I got a new one in 218, and I worked with it loose over in England. Oh, that was so painful. I was on heavy drugs. I'm talking about 30 milligrams to 40 milligrams of Vicodin before I went in the ring.
Wow.
Yeah, that was it was so painful. It was nerves ripping around in my knee, but I had to finish the tour.
That's fine.
Yeah, anyhow, I've had 2 knee replacements on the right leg. I've had all my neck done. It's fused, arm top and metal plates, and the rest of it it's just fused my neck. And I need a new shoulder. This shoulder, the right shoulder, as you can see, I'm sitting here normal. Look how my right shoulder's up. See it?
Yeah.
That's normal. It's this side is the arm is smaller than this side because it's all the work is done through the trap.
Right.
So
and you're still wrestling in the ring after all this, still doing it.
That's all ripped in that. But apart from that, one of the worst injuries I got in the ring, marching out of the ring, and they put my knee on the apron and pulling myself to get up in the ring in Baltimore, I tore my groin.
Oh.
And I could hear it snap. And the pain shot in there in my groin. And it's funny, you know, I didn't have hernia. It just ripped apart of my groin there.
Oh.
Butcher, you know, we've been a tag team. He did most of the work. We got through the match. I got back, and Tony Gurria was the agent, and that got ice packs for me and all that. That was one of the most painful things to happen in the ring.
Ouch!
I had my right shoulder pop in Puerto Rico with the lack of potassium. It snapped. I tore muscles in the shoulder. That was in about 1980. Because I wasn't used to be working in the cold territories. I went into Puerto Rico. We're working in arenas 95 degrees.
Craziness.
Inside the arenas, you know, no air conditioning.
Yeah.
You know, the walls come up so far, and then before the roof, there's openings all around like that, and it's outside. And you know, this is in the afternoon show, and inside, and it's around 95. And I got a guy in the corner. I go to punch him, and I went, oh,
crazy.
That arm hung there for the rest of that show.
Ouch.
I went with my left arm, but of course Butch was there to carry me. Like I carried him through things too. Yeah. He had broken collarbone. Yeah, so we looked out for each other.
Now you have. I mean, throughout this whole entire book, there story after story about how you guys actually took care of each other in so many different ways. Like, I mean, again, everyone, you have to buy the book to hear these stories. But the one story that stands out for me is that journey from Hawaii to Grand Prix, and in Waikiki, I believe you guys went out for some Chinese food, and you ordered too much, and you guys got to the airport, and you drank too much, and I guess Butch left you for a second, and he found you in the washroom, and he had to dig out your teeth. I'm not going to give all the details, but yeah, you guys had each other's backs.
Butch was walking around there. You know, Honolulu Airport, about 4 floors. He went to go and get the new tickets. They were already there. They had to go down to the tickets where ticketing was. Yeah. And I was up on another floor.
Yeah.
And we ran out on the bill.
Yes.
We ordered I was so drunk they ordered a whole page of food.
Yeah.
Butcher went to the toilet there, and he said, just get me get a couple of dishes the same as you, because we always ate similar stuff. Yes. I ordered a whole page. The fucking table when it came, Butch said, "What the fuck? There's plates on top of plates."
Yeah.
And then and we ate so much, and we got the check and saw it. Fuck it. We were drunk.
Yeah.
I was more drunk than Butch because we'd landed in Hawaii at 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning, and the plane wasn't until the afternoon. So we got to little bars on the roadside from the airport, and we're drinking these big glasses like this, and all the fruit juices with alcohol, rubbing them and all that vodka.
Yeah.
So at the airport, and that Butch had left me, and all he saw now, he went to the toilet, and he's walking around, and he was looking in where people's feet were, and he saw 2 pair of feet with the toes touching the ground and the knees. He looked in and he couldn't see the knees, but he knew the shoes.
Yeah, the yellow soles. He saw the yellow soles of your shoes.
Yeah, and he saw 2. They were blue slip-ons.
Yes.
Or the things, or whatever color they were brown. He saw them. He went into the toilet next door, and he climbed from the toilet over the wall, and he got me. I was laying on the toilet seat with my head in it, and hey, guys, go get the. And these were floating around in the toilet amongst all the puke.
Yeah, and he dug
Sorry,
it out.
guys, I had to give you that.
No, we had to. No, fantastic.
That was a she-bird, Bushwhacker.
There you go.
It was when I worked at the Hill.
There you go. I have a fan question from you. Before we actually went on, I was talking to a local wrestler here about the interview that we were going to do with you here, and he asked me to ask you this question. Back in 2011, I don't know if you remember this or if this even applies to you, you were apparently advertised to be in a show here in Vancouver, not necessarily Vancouver, but I think in like just a little bit north from Vancouver or whatnot, and a fake Luke emerged, and the house went crazy, like very upset. Do you remember that? Were you supposed to come for an appearance in 2011?
Where was it?
In Vancouver, like it was either like Penticton or something like that, or I don't know the exact location, but apparently you were supposed to come to Vancouver or to BC, to British Columbia to make an appearance, but apparently you didn't come, and they sent out a fake Luke, and people saw right through it and almost rioted. Apparently, I don't know. Do you remember that? Were you supposed to?
I never heard of the booking. I made all the bookings. I've made all my bookings I've got, except a couple of them where I was sick. But I've let them know well ahead, a week ahead of time. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Maybe it was just a setup, a local setup, but he
just
was
a promoter trying to make a couple bucks.
A promoter trying to make a couple bucks or something.
No, my reputation.
No, 100%. Which is why I was kind of curious to ask. So like now we know for sure that it was just a setup from the get-go. It had nothing to do with anything.
Now they've had me in a few casinos too. And the casino and a run and I've seen people have sent me the billboard on the roadside outside the casino. And I haven't even got the bookings. The guy I know down in Mississippi, he booked me there and that, but never told me. And of course he got all the advance money and that and kept it. That's what they do. You know what I mean? They use your name, and my name was on the thing.
Okay. So that makes a total sense. But Luke, if I may, back to the question that I asked you, I was asking you earlier. Seeing that you're still heavily involved in the business and you're still heavily involved with the product, one, do you watch wrestling, like the product still? And what are your thoughts on the current state of wrestling? Do you like it? Do you wish there was more characters and things like that?
Yes. You know, now I'm not knocking them because I know a lot of them.
Yeah, no.
Great physiques, great athletes, great wrestlers.
Yeah.
But they're all trained in one camp. They've got one move that they got for a finish, or got a few moves, but they all work the same. You know what I mean? In WWE, because they all work with the same trainers. You know what I mean? And that now they can't get. They're getting guys college now, athletes from colleges. That's the main guys they get from colleges who've never got nothing to do with wrestlers, and they train them. Now, these guys give them a character. If a guy's laid back and you give the guy a lively character, it's hard to get him into that character. You've got to know the guy's personality before you give him a character.
Right.
But these writers don't do that.
Right.
You know, they should come into the thing and learn the business and then the trainers tell them, oh, this guy's a laid back guy, or this guy's more vibrant. You know, different. They should tell them the writers a bit about their personality. You understand? Because characters are a big thing. The product I know they sell a lot of merchandise, but when we had characters, you could make more merchandise of a person. If they've got a character, you can make a lot more merchandise.
Right.
But Vince's the merchandise sales there is as much as the house. If not, they're making much more money out of merchandise than they're making from the houses.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Luke, if you could have a dream match that two opponents, a tag team that you didn't ever get to wrestle, who would they be?
And now, I'd like to. I think Orton is one of the greatest wrestlers at the moment. You know what I mean?
Randy Orton.
Yeah, Randy. Of course, he's been off a lot for smoking dope. You know, when he disappears, you know he's off for that, but not now. He's he's injured at the moment.
Yeah,
right?
He's going through some serious back issues. I think he's had a couple operations.
Hey, he's been working there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, 20 years, 21 or 22 years now, and but he's a great man, like his dad. His dad, the brain his dad had. His dad could be pushed much higher than he got pushed. You know, Cowboy Bob Orton.
Yeah.
A great word, great brain. I see Bob on the road. Love the guy. And I think Randy is one hell of a worker.
He is.
And the curly-headed kid who's around 210 pounds and that, and they bring him back and forth all the time. He's only lighter than that, but he's a great worker. And I've had him there for years too. They did a little angle with him. We went down to NXT and took the belt, and he brought it back to
Dolph Ziggler.
Yes,
yeah, he's great.
Dolph is great too. You know, he reminds me of a guy back in the day. Rick Rude was one like those. He could get heat off his bumps. Rick Rude, he didn't have to do much offensive stuff. He just had to beg and shake, and then the people would be screaming, wanting to get killed. You know what I mean? You know, he'd be begging, Rick, you look at Rick's matches.
Yeah.
But he was over strong.
Yeah. Very
and
true.
I know a few guys like that they still so good, and Dolph is all like one of those guys.
Awesome.
Sneak in and get your little thing, and then when they come back, you take a few bumps and they start begging, and the people get that bastard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thoughts on the current product? Roman Reigns as champion. How do you like what he's doing?
They built him up. They're taking how many years? 8 years.
Yeah.
But he's strong. Now he's over strong, and he can talk too.
Right. Yeah. And now you worked with this family. You were able to do work.
I worked with his dads.
Yeah.
And then the first I have sons, Fatu, which is Rikishi.
Yeah.
And I worked with the other kid, the other big kid who worked with when Jimmy Snuka went down. They had a kid there in his place. Tonga Kid.
The Tonga Kid, yeah, absolutely. And you also worked with Peter Maivia as well.
Yeah, I worked with him, and of course Sammy, the head shrinkers. I worked everywhere with him. Yeah, the head shrinkers.
Yeah.
Even after WWF, I worked all over the country for armed forces.
Right.
Batu and fucking Sammy.
Yeah.
and then Sammy and Lloyd, when they got Rikishi, they changed. He went back and worked as Rikishi. They put Lloyd in his place. I worked everywhere with those guys. The family, they're from the South Pacific. We're from New Zealand's from the South Pacific. We're like brothers.
Right. And you guys had an angle very, very early on, and a lot of people don't know about this, that you actually went down, you guys went down to Samoa to have a program with Peter Maivia. Is that correct?
That is Butch.
The Butch, he had a program where he was.
It was the 10th. We used to own New Zealand. Used to be governed by not all Samoa, but the Western Samoa used to be governed by New Zealand.
Right.
Then they got them. Then they became independent, and the 10th independence, Butch was still green, or not green, but still, and Peter took him to Samoa for the 10th independence.
Yeah.
And what happens in this? They're having their first. It was only a one-match thing. Having the first match, and Peter in the heat. Peter told Butch to throw him out. He threw Peter out. Peter landed on a Coke bottle and it broke and cut into his leg. And the blood started squirting. Remember the thick, the woman-shaped Coke bottles, the little ones?
Yeah.
Remember those days, people used to have in the 60s, 70s at the shows, if there was loud liquor, they're not in paper cups those days. They'd have the bottles or the cans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Butch cut his leg, and Butch got out, and Peter says, "Kick me in the leg, kick me." And Butch looked around and saw the big Samoans, because he knows about the big Samoans from New Zealand. We've got the biggest, highest population of Samoans in the world, in New Zealand. And Butch starts putting the boot to him, and they all start getting up. And Peter says, "Fight me back to the dressing room. I'm going to make a comeback and we'll fight back to the dressing room." Butch says, "How are we doing it for this?" He says, "No. Fight me back to I'm going to fight you, but you fight back. We'll go back off into the dressing room as I fight." So they went out in the ring. Butch threw Peter in the ring to make the comeback. Then he made the comeback. They went outside the ring again, and he fought Butch back to the dressing room. He said, they said, "Can you stay for another few days?" Peter was thinking that was the angle. It was televised, everything, because the 10th anniversary. It was all boxing matches till that wrestling match.
Awesome.
And Butch came back. When he came back for the next match, Butch never saw the mat. He flew around the whole match.
Oh wow!
What he said on the thing, "I flew like a seagull."
That's awesome.
Anyhow, ladies, I have an appointment elsewhere at 8 o'clock. I have to shower and get ready.
No, thank you so much, Luke.
We
want to take the opportunity. Thank you for the honor and the privilege for gracing us with your presence to talk about this amazing book again. Guys, you can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it wherever you buy your books from. Blood, Sweat, and Cheers, the Kiwis, the sheep herders, and the Bushwhackers. The story of the Bushwhackers.
And for the fans, my Instagram, my Facebook, and my Twitter is Bushwhacker Luke.
Absolutely. We'll add all that on there.
My website is bushwhackerluke.net.
We'll add all that in the description of how the fans can get a hold of you and find you on social media.
Absolutely.
And if you want to, you can buy the book from me signed. You just have to email me at Bushwacker brand. Bushwacker, and the Whacker is WHACKER Bushwacker brand at gmail.com. You write to me and say you want the book, and I'll give you the way where you get it, the PayPal address, and your address, and you'll have one in the mail signed by me.
Oh my goodness!
Thank you so much for your time. We much appreciate this.
Can I send my copy to you for signing?
Sure you can.
Yeah, awesome. Mine too. I'll send mine.
That's awesome.
Send them together.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much, sir.
Send it next month. Send it in about a month and a half time, because Butch is sending all. I sent him a lot of labels signed, and he signed them for me so I can put them in the book. Because there's
Definitely.
2 pages. There's one for me to sign, and there's a page for him to sign.
All right, perfect. We will send our copies.
I'll get those labels. Contact me. You can contact me on Facebook or Instagram or email me.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And again, we would love to have you guys on again. Hopefully next time Butch can join us, and
And John.
And John, absolutely. John has to be there. A big shout out to John for writing this book with you, for getting us in touch with you. So John, get better. Thank you again for this opportunity. And thank you, sir, once again, for taking out the time of your schedule to join a couple of guys here on the West Coast to share these amazing stories.
And I'd love to get over Canada. I haven't been on the West Coast of Canada for a decade.
Well, you know, I hope that you can make it out here soon. And when you do, you can connect with us and we can sit down together.
Comic-Con. If there's any Comic-Con or anything like that there, you need to shoot it to me, the name of the Comic-Con, and I'll try and get on it.
Awesome. Fantastic. We'll look into it and we'll get all the details.
To all your fans out there, thanks for listening to the show. And I love these guys. And don't forget, tune in.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you so much, Butch. Or Luke, sorry. Pardon me. Take care.
Wow.
There we go. Thank you.